Okay, so this is ED 103, which I wanted to make sure and show you because I had a simple SQL injection challenge in my earlier class for SQLOL, and I realized after I tried another day, I used to be a database administrator, so I managed to make a series of SQL challenges to try other things. So here's where you start. You can put in a real select command here and execute, which is, of course, not something you would ever let a customer do. Only your administrator is supposed to have this much power. And by the way, there's a reset button. I always put this here because students can totally corrupt and mess up the database. And this more or less puts it back to a clean state. It's not perfect because I was too lazy to really do a thorough job, but it does put all the data I wanted there back in there. So now you can show the databases with just show databases, and that will give you a list of all the databases. And there are two. There's something called widgets, which is the customer data for this company. I call it widgets. And then there's the one automatically generated by the MySQL software called information schema. And this is the key to SQL injection. If you can execute a select query, you can read anything you can name. You can read any column in any table in any database, but you have to know the name of the column, the table, and the database. And in principle, people pretty much use the same names over and over, like employees and purchases, but in case they used an exotic name, you wouldn't know it. But the SQL software itself creates a few objects that always have the same name. So you start by interrogating them, and this is the one that MySQL creates, information underscore schema. So that's why, so those are the databases. Here's the tables in the current database. And of course, this query is already set to define the database to be something interesting for me. So if I show tables, I see the tables in widgets, employees. So in this case, I didn't need to know the database name to get into it, but I can't in general count on that. There might be multiple databases. This is just the current database. So there's a table called employees in the database called widgets. So that's fine. Now you can do more. You can do select, and you can just select a number. This is kind of nuts. This is like echo. You can select one and you get one. It doesn't get any data out of a database at all. We're learning the language SQL, and it has a few very simple commands which we can use later to benefit us. You can also select text like foo, and then it will just echo foo back. It doesn't have to pull it out of a table. All right, you can add things together, foo plus bar. And I think, by the way, you can't add a number. Nope, you can. It just does it. So it'll make some assumption about whether that's a number or text or something. Anyway, so now you can concatenate them. You can do a substring. This one here is going to turn out to be important later. If I do the substring, a peanut, let me make this bigger. Okay, if I do the substring, a peanut 2, that takes peanut and it starts at the second character and then takes 2 characters from there. That's what it pulls out the EA. So you can pick part of a string out. Now that might seem silly, but we're really going to need that, because if you want to find a password that's hidden, you could try guessing 1,000,000 passwords, or you could try guessing whether the first letter is A, B, C, or D, and then whether the second letter is A, B, C, or D, and it'll be a geometrically smaller number of queries to get to the end. And that's what we're going to be doing. All right, and so now I can start getting data from the employees. So this is the one we've done before. Star is the wild card. So if I do this, it'll get me everything out of the employees table, which is ID, name, SSN, ID, name, SSN for all these people. Oh, it looks like Cheesecake's done his homework. And it looks like my cleanup function didn't clean his data out, which is, like I warned you, my cleanup function is not as nice as it should be. But what it does is put back the data that you need. It'll probably do for the project. One of these days, if I get the energy, I'll go back and write one that actually deletes all the data before it puts in clean data, but I was too lazy to do that. All my repair box is just a bunch of select statements, insert statements that insert the right data back in there. Anyway, so that gets you everything in the employee table. You could also get just one field, like just the ID number. So if I get just the ID number, then I get those. And now I don't know what name goes with the ID number. I just got the ID number. Okay, now I can get name and ID where the ID equals 1, and this is getting closer to what really happens. Now I'm going to get name and ID of the employee number 1. And this is what happens when you log in and look at your profile or your email or something. I can concatenate them into one field, and then this will work. This will get me name ID concatenated. So now it is Bill Gates 1. I guess somebody's added something else down here, which I didn't intend to put there, but that's what I get for letting people hack my database. All right, and now you can have a more complicated if select criteria here, like that. And now it's where ID is 1 or cat equals dog or 2 equals 2. This condition is sometimes true. This condition is always false. And this condition is always true. So this combined Boolean quantity is always true. So I get the entire database. Okay? Because I get name and ID for employees where true. And that is the heart of what we're gonna exploit. So now you can now insert data into here, which is what people have been doing. And by the way, if I was cool, I could delete it. Let's see if I can get rid of those extra rows. Let's select star from employees and see if I can delete the extra rows that somebody put there, which my sleazy repair tool didn't put back. Submit. Now, how about, okay, ID 4. Anyway, maybe I won't do it right now. Yeah, maybe I will, sure. How about this? Delete from employees where ID greater than 3. That might work. Yeah, I may have done it wrong. From employees. Yeah, I forget how to make a delete query. Thought I knew. Okay. Maybe this. Ooh. All right. Well.
Could you overwrite it?
Yes, I could. I could update, but I forget the syntax. I could get there, but I don't want to slow down our lectures. We don't need to do it for right now. And one of you can learn how to clean it up for extra credit. That would be cool. But I might get around to it one of these days. Here's how you insert into it, and that's what somebody's been doing. There's also delete. Anyway, so now if I go here and select everything from information schema tables, I get a really long list. All these capital tables are automatically created by the database engine. Many, many of them, hundreds of them. There's a whole lot more than you might think. That's what's all in that schema table. And way down at the end someplace are the new ones usually. I'm not seeing them here, but anyway, there's a ridiculous number of tables created. Oh yeah, this is only stuff from information schema tables. Those are all the automatically generated ones. There's tons and tons of them, and they make them all in capital letters, so you can put yours in lowercase letters and make it a little less confusing. And here's all the columns. These are all the columns of all the tables in the information schema, and again, tons and tons of them. Many, many things here. And I would scroll down. My thing is not scrolling down for some ungodly reason. Right. My stupid keyboard commands are not taking me there. But I want to do, oh, I guess the thing isn't unloading yet or something. Anyway, all right. So I seem to have frustrated my server. Perhaps somebody put a bunch of extra crap into that server or something. All right. Or maybe the internet connection went down or something. Well, anyway, sure. Right. Let's see if I can get anything to work here. Neat. Okay. Okay. So anyway, and here you can get all the column names from that. I'm not going to do it again. Anyway, so now you can start finding things. Find Steve Jobs SSN, find this data in one of those long lists. And that's the first thing, first couple things. Now we can start doing SQL injection. In a real case, they don't let you do a select query. All they let you do is put in your name because you're trying to log in or search for somebody or something. So if you put in a name that's really there, like Bill, for example, I think I can probably use a wildcard, Bill Star. Yeah, so, nope, didn't find him. I think it might be Bill Percent, might be the actual wildcard. I'm just going to try it. I'm flying a little bit off my plan here. Nope, okay, anyway, Bill Gates would do it if you give it the right name. Then it finds Bill Gates's name only. So you can look for people by name, it'll show you the name. Not very exciting, and I didn't expect to show you anything else. But of course, if I put in a name with an apostrophe, then I'm testing for the simplest kind of SQL injection, and I'm getting a syntax error, which should never, ever happen. No, I put in data, it should be either found or not found. There should not be any data which breaks a line of code. That's insane. That means some part of the data you put in was misunderstood as code instead of data. And this is why. This is the result. Select name, where name equals tip O, and it matched this apostrophe the developer put there with this apostrophe the customer put there, and then interpreted this as a command. So now some of the name I typed in was processed as a command, and since Neil is not a valid command, it crashes, so now I have a denial of service exploit. So I just have to be more clever to make it a remote execution exploit, which is where we're going. So here's how you make it dump the whole database. You put in 4 apostrophes, carefully spaced, so that when you add extra apostrophes around it, it remains valid. So now it's name equals Sam or A equals A. Now these apostrophes are from the developer, and those are from me, and a more intelligent system would not allow my code to match the developer's code, but this one does, so now I get all the names. So that's the standard SQL injection. All right, and if you want to do it without bothering to match the apostrophes, you can use a # at the end to just terminate with a comment symbol. So if I do this, I put in only 1 apostrophe, but it's still okay because that apostrophe is commented out. So now I've selected name where name equals Sam, and now I've added a second query, union select 1. So there is nobody named Sam, and then I added a 1. So now I can add 2 different kinds of data to the same column. All right, so now you can start finding things here. And if you want to, you can use SQLMap. I originally planned it this way because I like doing things by hand, but my Arabian students said, oh, we got to learn SQLMap. SQLMap is what real penetration testers do. And I said, okay. So you can install SQLMap on a Debian server in the cloud if you like, or you can use Kali or something. And I made a couple SQL maps. Notice these URLs. This URL goes to AD. That is a direct connection to my server, unfiltered. So you can run SQLMap. This one goes through Cloudflare, and Cloudflare has a filtering function to block some of the stuff SQLMap does. So you'll have to learn how to evade that to run SQLMap through that filter. So that's the point of these, and you'll be able to find some stuff there. All right. So there are some SQLMap challenges if you'd like to learn SQLMap. I should mention the points. I only expected people to do 30 points here. The first few simple ones are enough to convince me you've learned the basics. The rest is all extra credit. I highly encourage the extra credit, but you may, for example, not be very interested in SQL injection. I want to focus on something else like the binary exploits, and that's fine. But if you're interested, there's a bunch more down here to do for fun. And then I'll just mention the blind SQL, which is really fun. So here I have a different database. These are not the same. So I reset this server. And now if I search for Bill Gates, it finds Bill Gates. So far it looks pretty normal. But if I search for X or A equals A, okay, so does name equal X or A equals A? And the result is it found it. Now the reason why this is blind SQL injection is because when it finds something, it does not print the name from the database, it prints the name from your query. Since this query succeeded, it re-echoed my name back. So I did not get a whole field from a database. All I get is 1 bit of information. If the condition I feed in is true, I will get a non-blank line here. If the condition I feed in is false, like putting a B here, then I will not get anything found. So this is like the game of 20 questions. You get a yes or no answer to every question. Now, can you actually find something out that way? And the answer is you can, and you could write a script to try every possibility and try a million guesses, or you could be smarter and get there faster. So for example, if I wanted to know the database name, I could start out by asking how long is the database name? And if I give it this command, it'll tell me the database name. This will be true if the database length is 1. And I got no results, so the length of the database is not 1. Now I could try equals 2, equals 3, equals 4, but again, that's for wimps. If you want to be cool, let's try less than 10. And that's true. So I can use greater than, less than, cut it in half every time, and it will only take 3 or 4 queries to zero in on it. And that's good, clean fun. And since with the substring stuff, you can now go to the substring of this guy's password A. So you're eventually going to be trying to find passwords. So let's go down here. Here's one where I want to draw something where totally different tables. So I'm going to have union select, right? Add name from employees, where name is Bill Gates. And I'm going to look for the name just so I know what I'm doing. So this is one where the condition is true. So I get a second whole query, and I'm looking for Bill Gates, and I'm looking at the first character in the name and see if it is equal to B. And of course, it is equal to B, so I get a result. Now I might, if I tried to put an A here, of course, that would be false, and I would not get a result. But I could do this. I could see, is it less than, is it less than M in the alphabet? And it is. I could do the same thing you do with numbers. It just turns them into ASCII and treats them as numbers. It's a very simple system. So you can just zero in on letters one by one and spell things out and get words out this way. And this is what's called blind SQL injection. And there's many versions of it, and on you go. So there's a few challenges there to find some stuff, and you ought to check that out. And in the same spirit, if you don't date, you look kind of young to me, maybe you people didn't grow up with MS-DOS like I did. So if you haven't done MS-DOS, you might as well get used to it. DOS has this ridiculous stuff here, command prompts and so on. Usually if you have a Windows machine, you can practice it. I don't actually have one at the moment. I guess I got a virtual machine. I got to make a cloud server. They quit giving cloud servers for Google Command for free for Windows. And I should mention this. You're the class it applies to. We're going to start hacking Windows later on in the class. But then they're actually charging you real money. Is that all it means? Yeah. But then you'll have to remember to cancel it. Yeah. There's another option. I'm glad you told me that, though, because that's useful information. I find I never remember to turn them off, so I don't like that very much. In fact, when I moved out of my house, I paid the next guy's electric bill for a couple months. And so I realized I forgot to turn that off. So the alternative, I just added a couple of days ago. Google has a voucher program for students now. And they gave me some. So if you go to this Windows Cloud Server, that's what this thing is. You can now get a voucher for $50 of credit by filling out this form with your City College email address, and they will send you a $50 voucher for Google Cloud, and you can use that for your Windows. At least I hope you can use it for your Windows. I didn't get that far trying. That was the idea anyway. So I wonder if that's, let me know how that works out. It occurs, maybe that's just going to still make you turn on the billing. That's rude. Anyway. So, Howard, I'm glad you told me that. That means people can do it all. I sure don't want students to end up having to pay, but all right, when I go to conferences, I'm going to start telling people you just have to pay a few bucks. Go to Vultr. Vultr's a cheap server and rent a machine. You can do all the projects for a couple of days for like 10 bucks, and that's just part of the price of admission. But around here, we have many penniless people. You can also just run VMware or something locally and run Windows that way if you want to, but that's admitting defeat. I highly recommend being in the cloud. Anyway, so there is vouchers available. If anybody tries using these, let me know how they work. Now you're making me wonder if they're actually any good for Windows machines, but I don't know why they'd bother giving them to us. Well, who knows? They gave me the vouchers and I went and got them and didn't really think through how good they are. I thought we could make Windows machines with them. We'll see what happens. Anyway, so once you've got command injection going, which should be here, so dir shows you a directory like ls, what you've got. And you can make a subdirectory and move into the subdirectory exactly like you would on Linux. And then when you do dir, there's nothing in there. So you can make a file with echo data into a file with greater than, exactly like you would on Linux. And you can type it. It's cat in Linux and type in Windows command line. It's very much the same. That shows you the contents of the file. So this echo mark puts mark in the file, and type Steve file prints out the contents, which is mark. You can now do directory traversal. Dir ... moves to the directory above where you are. This is true of Linux. Cd ... moves up, and dir ... gives you the contents of the directory above where you are. So if you haven't done directory traversal, it's important to understand you're in a current working directory. You're in your home directory, then you cd foo, you're now in the foo directory, then you cd ... now you're in the home directory. Students who have not used command line anywhere aren't used to this, but I hope most of you use some kind of command line. Anyway, so you can also do cackles. This shows you the access control list. And that's just something to show that you've got it working. So you will need a Windows machine of some kind to do this, like a cloud Windows machine or your own Windows machine or Windows virtual machine. But this is what I wanted to show you. I made a MS-DOS command injection. We did a bash command injection and a SQL command injection, and now we're going to do MS-DOS. This is a PHP script running on Windows. I think I did it with PHP or ASP or something, I forget. And anyway, if you give it a dot, it gives you the contents of that directory. This just does a dir of the current directory, which it should have shown me something. Maybe it's, let's try .n who am I? See what that does. Oh, there we are. Yeah, so here's the directory, C XAMPP HT dots. It's running something called the XAMPP server, which is a fabulously unsafe server used just to test websites, which is what I'm running. So everybody has administrator access on this server, so it does get trashed pretty often. So if you go here and it's down, let me know and I'll bring it up again. So this is the directory, and here's the result of who am I? Windows \administrator. So unlike the bash command injection where you were www data with low privileges, in this case, you're the administrator, so you can really go to town on this server. And so there are some flags to find. You have to learn how to search through Windows, and there's a folder name secret containing the flag.txt. You have to go in there and print the contents, and you'll find a flag. And you email in a picture of the flag. You don't enter it into a form below. I'll try and remember to take those words out. That's from an older system of scoring. And then there's more flags to find, hidden more and more on the server. And this one gets pretty hard to find, so there's great suffering. So like any CTF, there's some there to hopefully give you some fun. I did put some hints here as more people complained. CertUtil is awesome. Very, very useful for pen testing Windows machines, as you're learning how to use CertUtil. Anyway, so that's what I wanted to point you to. Are there any questions about anything? So that's this. Next time I'll talk about these two, and then we'll start doing these binary exploit projects. But of course, work ahead, do whatever's interesting you. Pulling ahead is good. ED202, in my opinion, is by far the most important project in the entire list. This is pretty much the whole course right there. There are like 10 pieces. That's a good one. But we'll do them all, but that one is the heart of it all. That's where you do all these buffer overflows under different conditions, 32, 64-bit, and you get to make sure you understand what it's doing. Anyway, all right. Well, I guess I'm going to stop the share. Question, a chat coming in. I have some problems finding the flags for ED104. I think they got tampered with. This is a common belief. I doubt it. Usually they didn't. It's just they're harder to find than you think they are. But I don't know. I can take a look at it and see. I added some hints and more people were succeeding in finding them, but I haven't tested them lately. I'll take a look at that if I get a chance. Might get a chance in the next couple of days. Does any students have results finding them? Anybody done ED104 yet? There's no, okay. Well, we'll find out next week. There's plenty of time to do them. And by the way, in case anybody's worried about the schedule, it's here. Here's when things are due, but nobody's going to lose points until February because you might still be adding. And by the way, it is possible that people have tampered with the flag because you do have total administrative control. You could, in fact, mess up the flags. What's more common than tampering with the flags is people accidentally create extra files named flag, which confuse you. So I'll take a look at it if I get a chance to try to clean it up. All right. Well, good. Have a good weekend, folks. I'm going to stop the share, and I'll post the videos up, and I'll stick around in the Hacker Lab if anybody wants help. 214 down that hall. I'll be there as soon as I